So today we are going to continue our series on Jesus in our lives. Last week we talked about Jesus in our homes and saw the value of having time in the Word and in prayer and being involved in the church, both as individuals and as families. Right? And trying to do that. And we sent several emails out. I hope you were able to receive those emails. And it's my sincere hope that some of these things are helpful, either in how you view things or in the practices that you put into place. That's kind of the purpose of this. So today we're going to look at Jesus in our workplace. So how does having Jesus in our lives change how we view our workplace, change what our attitude is in our workplace, and even our actions in our workplace? And the reading that we're going to kind of work through here is Ephesians chapter 6, verses 5 through 9. It says this: Bondservants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with sincere heart as you would Christ, not by way of eye service or as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, rendering services with a good will as to the Lord and not to man, knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is bondservant or is free. Masters, do the same to them, and stop your threatening, knowing that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with him. Now this text, they talk about bondservants, which can also be translated slaves. And what they're talking about here is dealing with the work situation of the days of Jesus was a little bit different than we have today. I know, surprise. He didn't go on to Monster.com and look for a job and all that kind of stuff. You had some people who were craftsmen and they could make a living that way. You had other people who were day workers. But then you had some people who were slaves or servants. And sometimes this was, not a great situation. You were captured in war or something like that, and then you entered in this way. But other times, people literally entered into this because that was their best option. Because it was hard back then. And so you might be in a situation where you and your family just don't have enough. But if you sell yourself as a servant to someone who's doing very well, then they bring you into their house, and you're able to have food and shelter and all the things that you're struggling to get. And it wasn't uncommon for the masters to treat the people well. So it wasn't, you have to kind of throw away the U.S. slavery concept, because it's not the same type of thing. So in some ways, this correlates to our employment situation, though obviously it's a little different. But so you're dealing with people who are working for other people. And you're saying, all right, so bondservants, or in our case, employees, obey your employers, right? And do this with sincere heart as you would Christ. And so right there we have this, it's kind of a shift, right? You're not just doing this as though you're serving this person or this company, but rather as we're serving Jesus Christ himself. And it's from this that we start to see this concept that everything that we are called, or everything that we can do, all these different jobs, can be calls from God. They're ways to serve God. There's this distinction that sometimes we have. We've had it through history, we still have it somewhat today, where you have like sacred jobs and then secular jobs. You had holy jobs and mundane jobs. And so if you really wanted to do something that God would be impressed with, then you need to be a pastor or a monk or something like that. And then there's the rest. However, that's not what we see here. What we see here is that it doesn't matter if you're a pastor or a youth worker or a monk, or if you're a farmer or a CPA or a janitor or a lawyer or whatever. Whatever it is that you're doing is a calling from God that you are to serve him in. Right? And that he values that. And so it's this idea of vocation that kind of comes out, that what you're doing is not just a job, it is God's calling for you, which changes our perspective on things. Right now, it's not just a means of getting some food on the table or getting some extra money for something, but it's actually, I'm serving God here. There's mission, there's purpose to that. There's reasons to be doing these things. And it changes the perception. You know, how do you deal with a boss who's not a great boss? Well, if it's just you and the boss, then you're probably not happy with him, and you know, how you deal with him might not be that great. But if you realize that you're here because God's put you here and you're serving Jesus and not just him, that changes how we deal with the boss. Because I'm here serving Jesus, not him. Jesus is good, right? Jesus has done many things. So what I wanted to do is have a discussion time here. And maybe we can kind of gather around a couple of tables. But the question is, have you ever considered the work that you do or did as or vocation from God? And if so, how did that change your view of the job? Or if not, understanding that, how does that change the way that you look at your job? And understanding that jobs maybe our job today is at home with kids, or maybe the job is doing volunteer stuff. What's that? And school. School is a job as well. And we're going to talk about school too next week, but you can talk, this fits too with this whole thing. So, all right, so yeah, on this table, think school. Your masters are your teachers.
What about cleaning their rooms?
You want to make it parents too. We talked about that last week.
I know. Right? You can carry on.
All right. Okay, so does that make sense, what the question is? All right, so discuss. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, so question, of course, was, considering that your work and a calling from God in which you're serving God, how does that change your perspective of that work that you're doing, whatever the work might be? So, I'm going to go over here first. What are your thoughts? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Well, mine was kind of easy because I'm a helper here. And when you're helping other people, you're serving God's people, it's easy to see that, that's a calling from God. Easier than the accounting.
Yeah. But it's still helping people.
But it's still helping.
serving
And
people.
Darlene was saying how that God uses your talent as an accountant. That's her talent. She knows that's her talent. And she's known that she's wanted to be an accountant since she was 10 years old.
Yeah.
So, obviously she's using the talent that God gave her.
Yeah,
So
God's
that's
given
a
you
calling.
talents that are used in that CPA.
Even if she doesn't see it that way.
Well, it's hard to see when you're an accountant, right? I mean, because you look at yourself as you're the servant, right? But not to God. You're a servant to everybody in that company. That God put you in there to serve all those people and to take care of that company so that they can take care of their families. I mean, you have to look at it in the long, big picture, right? If you're an accountant, it's hard to say, yeah, I'm sitting here serving God, trying to figure out how to balance this out, right? But in effect, you are. But I never saw that either as an accountant until I ended up in Campus.
Yeah, and so it's not always evident in certain positions, but it is still where God has placed you. Like you said, you are helping them, even if it's a little bit harder to see. Very good. All right, how about over here? We'll go to the brilliance stuff. Any thoughts?
I could have crossed on that.
It's okay. Okay. Well, but that's a big thing, right? That God has given us these talents. And right now you use them helping people out and doing different things. Eventually, we'll be able to use them in the job. It's the same thing. It's just a different concept. Those paid for it. You might be able to. I know people who say for money. So you got to be good though. You got to practice. All right.
have all staying
Any thoughts over here? Yeah.
I think there's a really interesting perspective when you say I don't have to worry about God. My relationship to serving Him, trying to serve Him, as John was talking about. That's not, I'm not doing this stuff because I'm serving God. I'm just serving them. And in the process of serving them, because of my motivation to the gospel, that's serving God. It's not, it's that Matthew thing that when they said, God, we said hungry and you, all that, and it's like, what? What did I do that?
Yep. Yeah, well, the primary way that we serve God is serving.
Helping out with the technical issues. The technology issues.
Well,
But the same thing, like you said, it's just, I mean, I don't think of it, like, same thing, John, I don't think of it as, you know, doing my job for Him, but I'm serving other people, you know, and if I didn't like them, you know, I wouldn't be doing that job, and I'm serving, by serving other people, it is serving.
so would it
Word.
make a difference when you're dealing with, say, a particularly frustrating person, if you do technical support? I assume you get a few of those. Does that make a difference to think, you know what, I'm doing this for Christ because He put me in here, as opposed to I've got to deal with this person who I don't like right now.
Yes, that is enough.
And then you could be helpful.
But no, yes, I mean,
Okay.
it goes out as like, one, I gotta like the customer service, the service aspect, otherwise, yeah, you can't fake it.
Yeah.
It's true, they can tell if you're smiling or not on the phone. They can tell it in your,
Mhm.
Your attitude.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's not the first thing that maybe comes, when I have a difficult customer, that isn't the first thing that comes into my mind.
Mhm.
It's more like, right, you know, because that's calm down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a factor.
What Aaron just said is really interesting because he said they can tell if you're smiling on the phone.
Mhm.
So if every Christian understood that concept in the relationship that they're in where they're serving, that the other person is supposed to be able to tell if you're smiling on the phone. I mean, you're not really on the phone, but I mean, just that they see that sense of joy
Yeah.
in your life of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that he talks to here, right? In that Ephesians passage where he says, do it not as people pleasers, but as bondservants with Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Right? And it's that idea that you're doing it out of love, you're doing it out of the joy of serving Christ, and that can come through. That can definitely come through. Okay, so it's a little bit different concept, perhaps than we've thought of, and it's certainly in certain positions maybe a little bit harder to see. I remember there was a quote from Lutheran. I'm probably going to mess it up, but it was basically, I think he was asked by someone, you know, what should this, they were with a farmer, so what should this farmer do if he was supposed to do something, you know, holy and for God? And they were kind of expecting an answer like, you know, go to mass, serve the poor or something. And he said, just be the best farmer you can be, you know, because that's where God has put you, and that's where God is working through you to serve other people, and you're serving other people. So it's kind of just a different thought. So then, if that's our perception of our job changes a little bit there, how does that then change our actions? So we start to get to it with smiling on the phone, right? How does our behavior change in the workplace because we're now a part of a call? You know, we're on our doing our calling from God, serving others and serving Him. How does that change our behavior? That's the next discussion. So I'm going to let you guys figure that one out first. No one will believe you?
Well, people
Try it. All right, so does that make sense? So what are some of the behaviors that we do because we're serving Christ? And instead of just thinking that it's
I've
serving
had that
other
quite a few times, like when I work.
people in a worldly sense.
Where it's like,
All right.
Mark,
So let's see. We'll start over here this time. So what are some of the behaviors?
we learned about you.
So what are some of the good behaviors?
Well, no, it's kind of like what I was saying. It's
I
like
did in the beginning. I don't know.
the attitude.
It's not with my effort.
You're gonna have a better attitude, hopefully.
Okay, so better
And
attitude.
you're gonna project it. You're gonna project it to other people. You can talk to whether it's on the phone, in person, or something like that. You're not gonna be up there. You're not gonna be up there just like,
when they try to.
you gotta be up here just to do this. Let me get through this and read off. You're not gonna sound like you're reading off. Just you have to be there. You're being paid. So
You're gonna show them respect.
yeah, you're gonna.
There would be something, like probably are not one that should use a vocabulary that has a lot of four-letter words in it.
Like that.
The poster probably shouldn't be from Playboy magazine.
Good point.
Some of the things that other people as Christians would say, speak Christianity to me. You've got to accommodate yourself to what the world would in a sense say. When we say, I'm not perfect, I'm a Christian, I'm not perfect, I'm forgiven, it doesn't mean like we can sin a lot so that we get a lot of forgiveness out of it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I remember Larry used to tell a story.
What?
There was a lot of stories.
Larry told a story.
All the time.
It's surprising.
All the time. And his son doesn't fall far from that tree, I'll tell you right now.
I mean, Larry was in the Navy. Right?
Oh, God, yes.
Oh no.
But one of the things that he'd say is that he was known, that he was kind of that Jesus guy, and that people changed how they talked when he was around.
I've heard that.
Stopped
I've heard it
jokes
talk about that.
and all that kind of stuff, because that
We
was
talked to me about that before.
the difference in behavior.
When they built the youth building at Faith Lutheran Church, the contractor, the master contractor, told all of the subcontractors that if you heard any swearing vocabulary from their workers, they were to be fired.
Wow.
And we heard none.
Wow.
But it just shows you that
Sometimes
hardcore construction guys
Can control.
can control their language.
So I liked your description from Walmart. Would you mind sharing what you talked about with what you did?
You want me to talk about that?
What you did. To me, that's amazing because I've been in Walmart and I've not seen that from anyone else.
Well, I worked in electronics for 6 years and on the phone for 7, and then ladies department and whatever goes wrong with ladies department stuff. When people would call me, they would want to know, well, do you have something in stock? And I learned the ability to use the telzone and know how many things of that were in the store. Or I could tell them exactly what store had it and the telephone number, or I could call them for them. Also, when people came in, they wanted to know where things were. Well, people in Walmart don't always give them the right answers, like, I don't know. And that's not what they want to hear.
No.
So on my lunch hour, I had a portable phone headset so I could walk around. And I would go up and down each corridor. And Walmart has a thing of changing things all the time. So you had to be really on it. And I would look to see what was on every shelf. And I made a mental note of it. So when people come to me, I would say, well, it's 3 blocks over and 4 up on a shelf. And they would come back and say, it was exactly where you said it was. And I go, well, you're welcome. But not everybody did that. But that was just who I was, and that was how I got my exercise. So it had to stay inside the building. So, I just looked at it. And then even managers would come to me and they go, I got 5,000 price changes. Do you think you could do them? And they go, yes, I can do them. I can do them on the phone, but then the person has to go and change all the little tags the next day. Yeah, I can do that. Or a manager go, well, I have I want to change the price in the store as a manager. And I don't know how to do it. And I go, well, I do. So I would do it, and they would say, how'd you do it? And I go, never mind. Just my little thing to know.
But it struck me because you went above and beyond.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't something they said, walk the store and figure out where all
I
the
had
stuff
truck
is.
drivers that would get to a certain point on the highway, and their computers would shut down, and I'm not one for knowing where 109 is or 120 or all that stuff. I would say, well, look out your window and tell me what do you see? And then I would bring them in by sight, and they would always come to me and go, you're the best person to bring me into the store, you know, because exactly where you said it was, you know. But I took the time, and I had ladies that, I had one lady who died, but her Betty that was her job, to answer the phone, and she'd be there putting thing all back into packages, just like manufacturer. And the phone would be ringing, and I'd be out on the ladies' department doing a mod change or something, and I go, Betty, the phone's ringing. Yeah, I know. And she would never answer it. So I constantly answered the phone, and I got that job eventually after Betty's demise. But, you know, it was just crazy things like that.
Very good.
And,
Yeah.
You should know that you have a mental ability that certain ones of us don't have.
like what?
You walk up and down the aisle, when you got down at the other end, you remember
Yeah.
where everything was on that.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't bought it, I probably and had done it, I wouldn't remember it. So
Yeah.
in the scriptures, second, in Ephesians 2, you know, you were created for God's purposes. If you have that kind of a photographic memory or whatever it is that allows you to do that, and you did that, that's a perfect example of using the gift that God has given you in a way that helps others, which is a trick. I mean,
Yeah, and I was also taught, we had a lot of handicapped people come in, a lot of deaf people. They all worked in the same place. They were all kind of related to each other. And nobody would work with them. And I was always taught from a young age, because I had handicapped people in my family, that you treated them with respect and you treated them like they were normal. And that's what I did all the way through my life. And I would always get down on my knees or squat near their wheelchair and listen to what they wanted. Because I worked in electronics, and I did all the music and I did all the videos and things like that. So that's where most of the people went, was the music, and I knew exactly where they were because I put them out there. So we would have a young man who was in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, and he needed somebody to go shopping with him. And those wheelchairs go pretty darn fast. And I was running after him, grabbing things off the shelf and putting them in his pouch. And then he would hand me his pocketbook, and I would hand the money to the register people, and then I would send him on his way. He lived about 3 miles down the road, and he traveled in the wheelchair home. But, you know, when I heard certain people coming in, I knew, you know, they would always come to me for something because they knew that I would find it for them.
So it changed even the way that you treated people as well.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a big difference.
yeah. Because I grew up with handicaps in the family, and I was always taught you don't treat Jeannie any different than you would Melinda. Ouch, Ben.
You guys got some who's got more groceries.
School.
Yeah, that's cool.
They've got people that maybe not everybody's long with,
Mhm.
always that understanding about how they can bring Jesus to through them, through them, to that person. These ones here can't really talk about Jesus at
It's a little
school.
different.
So they can.
Yeah, but they go behind the scenes and work with suppliers to cut you
Yeah.
out.
Not just those
No.
people, but I mean, especially those people with Jesus.
Well, and
That's
our
right.
actions sometimes shine louder than our words, right? In fact, in the gospel reading that we had, it said, shine your light so that others will see your works, right? And glorify your Father who is in heaven, right? So the way that we act towards people is a big witness in being able to point them to Christ.
And
Yes.
the word was are. It wasn't try to be.
Yeah, you are a light.
You are a light. You are the salt. That's what the redemption of Christ is in our life. It doesn't give us an option.
Yeah, well, and it turns it from a a law message to a gospel message. This is who God has made you. You are a light now because you are this new creation of His. You're a light. It's not you go out and figure out how to be a light. That would be a very different message. What about you guys? Anything over here?
Spokesperson over there.
It teaches me to help people, not get mad.
That's a big deal. So if you couldn't hear over there, you probably need to somehow microphone some things. But he said it teaches you to help people and not get mad at people. Right?
Because if you're busy and people are kind of interrupting you, and
Yeah.
so it's as easy as to ignore them or tell them to go away, and you gotta stop and think, oh no, I'm gonna help the person instead of just telling them to go away.
Yeah. That is. It's a big deal. It's a big difference. All right. Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the children in school, you know, you'll see a new person come into school. They don't know anybody. And the best thing you can do is sit down with that person and be a friend for them, and then try to introduce them to the different friends. And I always went for the downtrodden people that nobody else wanted to be with. I would always hang with them, you know, and try to be a friend to them and listen to what they had to say.
Yeah. That's very much like what Jesus did, right? He walked around and he was finding the people who, you know, the outcasts. And he would,
And even in adult life, I do the same thing. You know,
good.
So what about your job?
So what about my job?
you try to fit everybody else's problems.
And Jesus.
Yes. But even before this, right?
Right.
I mean, and it still applies. It's really, that's the point, right? It's the same thing. Right? That I look at this the same way that you can look at your job. That when I'm serving you all, or I'm serving out in the community, that I'm doing that for Christ.
Right.
Just like you. Right? And so it kind of breaks down that distinction to some extent, so that there's not like this, you know, you're the holy one or whatever. We're all.
Well, yeah, like your father brought up at our table about Lutheran saying, like, where he changed where people like, oh, you got to be a monk, you have to be this. Where no, you can be a farmer, you can be a butcher or stuff like that.
Be a banker, whatever. Yeah, and just do that. You know, do it to the best of your ability. Be honest at it. Right? How you treat people is a big thing. Yeah.
And I heard something this week. We sometimes grumble about being interrupted because we're driven.
Mm-hmm.
And the person said, let yourself be interrupted because you could be the answer to that person's prayer.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a hard thing. That's that you want to know how the job is. That's one of the things you got to learn real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Be interrupted. Be interruptible. You know, and as someone who worked in tech, you know, and all this, it's very easy for me to just get focused in the job that I was doing and don't bother me. And you got to break that. Right? That is a big thing. Right, so good. Really, the only other thing that I would add, I think you guys have had some great conversations. I know we're getting a little late here. Is the idea that as a call from God, and as we are in this situation, right, that we also understand that God is bigger than the job itself as well, right? And so that also affects, you know, so if something comes up and we have to say, you know what, that goes beyond what I'm willing to do, you know, which happens sometimes, you know, where practices become something that's beyond what God says we should be doing, and that we're willing to say, I can't do that. But we do that not just in the obedience of God, but also knowing that He has said that He's going to care for us and provide for us, and that He's going to be with us in that. Right?
Jennifer faces that, your sister-in-law, she's a nurse, pediatrics, and they have mothers bringing their children in who want to change from a girl to a boy or so forth, and they actually give the shots that they need to get started.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer told her boss, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Now, and she could lose it. Her boss knows that she's understanding. But who's ever above that may
That's
not.
how you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a regular practice.
Yeah. It's Johns Hopkins Clinic. And, you know, that's not the sole thing that they do.
Right.
But they have people, you know.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, so I mean, I guess just to end on the gospel side of it, right? That this is a gift, right? Work is even a gift. Right? Sometimes we think, oh yeah, it's from the fall, and now we have to slave over getting food and all this kind of stuff. Actually, Adam was given work first, right? He was go tend the garden, name the animal, do all this stuff, right? The work is a gift, and it is a gift that we are placed in then to be able to use those gifts and abilities that God has also given us. And that as we do that, then we get to be lights. We get to shine so that people can see Christ in them. And so it's a difference. And I think it's different from the dog eat dog world where you're saying I just got to get ahead and all this kind of stuff. And we can take time to help people. We can be interrupted and all these things. Go the extra mile. So, all right. Well, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of work. We thank you for the many gifts that you have given each of the people in this room. And just pray that you would help us to see what you're doing. Help us to see the callings that you have placed us in and how we can serve others and serve you by doing so in these jobs or in school or at home, volunteering or however it is that you have us working. Help us to do so faithfully and also to learn to trust that you will be there with us, even on the bad days, even on the days when we have to make hard decisions, and that you'll carry us through those things, Lord. And we thank you for that and praise your name. In Jesus' name, amen.